Well, okay. Hello. My name is Audrey. This is Lyndon, Scarlett, and Asaf, and this is our advocacy presentation recording. um, our group worked with Appalachian Voices, which is a local grassroots advocacy organization that was originally established in 1997. Their work focuses primarily on protecting the land, air, and water in central and southern Appalachia and promoting the transition from fossil fuels to clean 21st century energy sources. They fight mountaintop removal, coal mining, fracked gas pipelines, and other harms to the people and places of Appalachia. App Voices advances energy efficiency, solar and wind power, and other economic solutions that create community wealth and sustain Appalachia's mountains, forests, and waters. App Voices has offices located in Boone, as well as counties in Virginia and Tennessee. The organization combines grassroots organizing, policy advocacy, and technical expertise to hold decision makers accountable at the local, state, and federal levels to affect positive change in the region. Um, they build partnerships with local leaders and organizations and also forge relationships with state and federal officials. App Voices has their own newspaper called the Appalachian Voice, which reaches an estimated 150,000 readers across the country and consists of stories of people working to celebrate and protect the region.
Cool. So the topic that we decided to work on with Appalachian Voices is the topic of electric co-ops. The history of this is that after the Great Depression, sometime in the 1930s, there was a movement that was calling to connect rural areas of the United States to the electric grid. And that kind of formed the Rural Electrification Administration, or REA, that in turn decided to connect rural areas through electric cooperatives. So electric cooperatives were supposed to be non-for-profit organizations or democratic organizations that would be managed and maintained with the assistance of the community that they are serving, and they are there for the community. Kind of fast forward to today, a 2020 report by the NRECA, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, says that there are a little over 800 electric co-ops today that cover around 66% of the power supply to mainland USA. So electric co-ops are definitely a big thing today and dominate the energy market in the country. Unfortunately, things have kind of taken, in our opinion at least, a wrong turn sometime during history, and these electric co-ops turned into more and more of a for-profit organizations, even though they're still legally not-for-profit. Anyone who's ever driven between Boone and Hickory and has seen Blue Ridge Energy's building knows that these organizations are no longer serving their communities in the way that they could and should. And Lyndon's going to cover that in just a second, but they pay their CEOs a decent amount of money, and their democratic process it's no longer democratic, at least in my personal opinion. And yeah, so Appalachian Voices decided to kind of bring this topic into the public's awareness and try to raise people's involvement in their electric co-ops and in the democratic process of these co-ops. So this is kind of where we started.
All right, so this project specifically is, they're calling it an electric membership co-op scorecard. And Appalachian Voices has already done this project in Tennessee, rating their different electric membership corporations on different facets of their governance. And so they decided to replicate this project in North Carolina with a few different criteria, since it's not exactly the same. But North Carolina has 26 different electric membership corporations. And the scorecard includes some aspects, especially around governance, such as like how easy is it for the members to vote for the board of directors that in turn regulate the rules, hire the management team, how much the management team is compensated, etc. And So things that are included on the scorecard are the regular members allowed to speak or attend the meetings of the board of directors? Are the bylaws that govern the organization easily accessible to all the members? Do amendments to the bylaws require vote of the members, or can the directors just change that on their own? Let's see, other things that they talk about are the transparency of the organizations, about like whether the financials are posted on the website. That includes the IRS Form 990 that talks about the compensation package for the board of directors as well as the executives. And then we looked at as well as how much the board of directors are compensated, comparing those to each other and to the median income of the region that those cooperatives serve. So you can see whether or not it's truly representation rather than just governance by people who make a lot more money. And then the same thing with the general manager or CEO salary, comparing like how much they make versus like the median income of the area. We also looked at whether they offer programs that are oriented towards low income residents or users of the service, including what they call a pay as you save program, which is where the members can obtain a loan from the Electric Membership Corporation to improve their home, to reduce their power bills overall, and then pay the same rate they had been paying as their home is more efficient and uses less electricity until that loan is paid off, and then their bills will just go down. And that decreases the use overall for the whole corporation. We also looked at solar and whether the electric membership will promote solar or discourage it by their members. Overall, it seems like most of them have policies in place that really discourage the expansion of solar by the members. So I don't know, Asaf didn't really talk about it, but the Electric Membership Corporation buys electricity from a producer. Usually in North Carolina, it's almost all Duke Energy having a monopoly on energy production. And then, so they buy that at a wholesale rate, and then they sell it to consumers at a retail rate. And the model has shifted more from a cost share cooperative to a for-profit model. So they mark up the electricity, and they claim that the markup is to pay for maintaining the lines, paying the employees, etc. But there's a lot of ways that they could cut the cost on both of those things, and most of them in the bylaws say that the purpose of the corporation is to produce reliable electricity to the consumer at the lowest rate possible. So there are a lot of different ways to do it, but we were looking at how they could move forward and into like a new era, maybe with renewable energy and getting off of fossil fuels by encouraging more community production and a distributed grid. But so far, very few of them, if any, are actually looking in that direction. We also analyzed whether they offer broadband internet service or trying to create that in their communities. Most of them do not so far. And we also looked at the local environmental aspect of whether they offer a opt-out policy for the right-of-way where the power lines run as it goes across people's property. Most of them have adopted a chemical pesticide policy to control the growth of trees and weeds under the power lines. And most residents really don't appreciate that because it can poison their gardens and their animals and and their water. And so we looked at whether there's any communication between the consumers who have that on their own property and the corporation who regulates that. So those are kind of the different aspects. We're still going through the process of scoring it up and deciding like how we're going to tally those, but we've communicated with most of the organizations and obtained most of the information we need for that.
All right, so I'm going to talk about just some further advocacy efforts. It's always good to reach out to your local legislators. One example could be supporting the cleanup for abandoned mines. So you would tell your representatives to reauthorize the Abandoned Mine Lands Fund, which would fund cleaning of abandoned coal mines and protect and preserve the environment of local communities or communities that are affected by the coal mines. Also, you could sign a petition for energy choice in North Carolina, which helps combat constant energy rate hikes and environmental destruction. It also fights the misuse of energy users' money by power monopolies for their own political gain, and advocate for greater member involvement and members' say within their co-op. And it's also very helpful if you could donate to Appalachian Voices or other organizations like Appalachian Voices, because they work to further the advocacy and work dedicated to informing and empowering co-op members to vote for more equal representation of board members of their co-op, be active in their member meetings, because that can make a difference when they're choosing energy sources and costs and things like that. Implementing cleaner energy practices and adopting programs that provide more accessible payment options for low-income members. So essentially advocate for eliminating the monopoly on energy that like Duke Energy and other co-ops have, and put more power and say in the hands of the actual co-op members in the community.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on that side of advocacy, since electric membership corporations are typically pretty small, not huge faceless organizations, that most of the cases, the boards of directors are regular people from the community. And so if you're served by an electric membership corporation and you care about this, you can actually get involved and go to the annual meeting. You can email or call on the phone the board of directors or the CEO or manager, and a lot of times you can actually talk to these people and advocate for like the changes you want to see. Whether that means having more locally generated power by the generating, let's say, renewable energy stations like solar owned by the cooperative, or you can even run to become a director of the board and advocate for those on the policy level of the co-ops. And it's all seemingly more approachable than maybe the political aspect of like getting a leadership position.
Well, thank you for listening.